It was a cold, rainy night when I first saw her. I was walking home from work, my umbrella barely shielding me from the downpour, when I noticed a figure huddled under the awning of a closed bookstore. At first, I thought she was just another homeless person seeking shelter from the storm. But as I got closer, something about her struck me as off. Her skin had a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer, like the surface of a soap bubble catching the light. Her clothes were tattered, but they didn't look like anything I'd ever seen before. Strange, metallic fibers woven into a fabric that seemed to shift colors depending on the angle. And her eyes, they were large, luminous, and an otherworldly shade of violet. I hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to do. But then she looked up at me, and there was something so vulnerable, so lost in her gaze that I couldn't just walk away. "Are you okay?" I asked, crouching down to her level. She flinched, as if surprised I could see her. "You can see me?" she whispered, her voice soft and melodic, with an accent I couldn't place. "Of course I can see you," I said, frowning. "Why wouldn't I?" She didn't answer, just stared at me with those wide, violet eyes. I noticed she was shivering, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. "Look, it's freezing out here. Do you want to come inside? I live just around the corner." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. I helped her to her feet, surprised by how light she felt, as if she were made of air. As we walked to my apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something deeply unusual about her. But I pushed the thought aside, chalking it up to exhaustion and the strange, dreamlike quality of the rainy night. When we got to my apartment, I handed her a towel and a change of clothes. She stared at them for a moment, as if unsure what to do with them, before finally retreating to the bathroom to change. While she was gone, I made some tea, trying to calm my nerves. Who was she? Where had she come from? And why did she seem so alien? When she emerged from the bathroom, she looked almost human, except for her eyes and the faint shimmer of her skin. She sat down on the edge of the couch, her movements graceful but hesitant, as if she were afraid of breaking something. "Thank you," she said softly, cradling the mug of tea in her hands. I didn't think anyone would help me." "Of course," I said, sitting down across from her. "I couldn't just leave you out there. My name's Alex, by the way." She hesitated, then said, "I am called Lira." "Lira," I repeated. "That's a beautiful name. Where are you from, Lira?" She looked down at her tea, her expression troubled. "It's complicated." I wanted to press her, but something in her demeanor told me not to. Instead, I said, "Well, you're safe here. You can stay as long as you need." Over the next few days, Lyra slowly began to open up. She told me she was far from home, that she had been stranded on Earth after some kind of accident. She didn't go into details, but I got the sense that she wasn't supposed to be here, that her presence on this planet was a mistake. Despite her otherworldly origins, Lyra was surprisingly easy to live with. She was quiet, thoughtful, and endlessly curious about everything. She would spend hours staring out the window, watching the rain or the passing cars, as if trying to make sense of this strange, new world. But there were moments when her alien nature became impossible to ignore. Once, I caught her levitating a spoon with her mind, her eyes glowing faintly as she concentrated. Another time, she accidentally set off the smoke alarm when she tried to reconfigure my microwave to cook food in a way that was more familiar to her. Each time, she would look at me with a mixture of fear and guilt, as if expecting me to throw her out. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. There was something about her innocence, her vulnerability, that made me want to protect her. One night, as we were sitting on the couch watching a movie, Lyra turned to me and said, "Alex, why are you being so kind to me?" I was taken aback by the question. "What do you mean? I'm not from here," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm different. I don't belong. And yet, You show me nothing but kindness. Why? I thought about it for a moment, then said, because it's the right thing to do. Because you needed help, and I could help. Isn't that reason enough? She looked at me for a long time, her violet eyes searching mine. Then, to my surprise, she smiled, a soft, radiant smile that lit up her entire face. You are unlike anyone I've ever met, she said. Your world is so strange to me, but you make it feel less lonely. Her words touched me more than I cared to admit. But as the days turned into weeks, I began to notice a change in Lira. She grew quieter, more withdrawn, as if she were carrying some great weight on her shoulders. When I asked her about it, she would just shake her head and say, "It's nothing." But I knew it wasn't nothing. One evening, I came home to find Lira standing in the middle of the living room, her eyes closed and her hands outstretched. The air around her seemed to hum with energy, and the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. "Lira," I said cautiously. Her eyes snapped open, and for a moment, they glowed with an intense, otherworldly light. Then the light faded, and she collapsed to the floor. "Lira," I rushed to her side, my heart pounding. "Are you okay? What happened?" She looked up at me, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry, Alex," she whispered. "I didn't want to tell you, but I can't stay here anymore." "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice shaking. "My people, they've found me," she said. "They're coming to take me back." I felt a pang of fear and sadness. "When?" "Soon," she said. "I've been trying to delay it to stay here a little longer, but I can't. It's too dangerous for both of us." I didn't know what to say. The thought of losing her was unbearable, but I knew I couldn't keep her here if it meant putting her in danger. "Will I ever see you again?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She reached up and touched my face, her hand cool against my skin. "I don't know," she said, "but I will never forget you, Alex. You showed me kindness when I needed it most. You made me feel human." Tears streamed down my face as I pulled her into a tight embrace. "I'll miss you," I whispered. "I'll miss you too," she said, her voice breaking. The next night, we stood on the roof of my apartment building, the stars shining brightly above us. Lira had explained that her people would come for her there, in a place where they could land their ship without being seen. As we waited, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. What would happen to her when she went back? Would she be punished for being stranded here? Would she ever be able to return? "Lira," I said, my voice trembling, "are you sure this is what you want?" She looked at me, her violet eyes filled with sadness. "It's not about what I want," she said. "It's about what's right. I don't belong here, Alex. I never did." Before I could respond, a bright light appeared in the sky, growing larger and larger until it was directly above us. The air around us seemed to vibrate with energy, and I felt a strange, pulling sensation as if the ground itself were shifting beneath my feet. "It's time," Lira said, her voice barely audible over the hum of the ship.